I'm excited to jump in. Shane, how in the hell are you on this
Doing
wonderful?
good. This week has been super busy. I'm busier than I like, but a lot of stuff is going on and a lot of stuff is moving. So, which is great, right? It's
Yeah.
as we record this, we're the week after MLK, which is sort of when I think a holiday season's over, right?
Yeah.
Because it's that 3 day week, 2 weeks in or whatever, and now it's bam, everybody to work, and I feel jazzed to head into the new year.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if this is different than my than last year or the year before, because I feel the same way. I don't understand why, but I feel busier. There's just a lot more to do, but I've made more moves like in the last 3 weeks for the start of this year. It just seems like there's a lot of things going
Yeah,
at
exactly.
the same time, and I'm like, okay, it's which is clear why I need to be organized and why we all need to be organized, because if you're not, it turns into chaos.
It was, and I thought I was supposed to roll in, and I'm even looking at some of my goals, saying, okay, one or two of these extracurricular things I plan to do maybe need to get dialed down a little bit, right? I'm like,
Right.
because of the other stuff, right? It's not like I'm finding a ton of time, but it's like, dude, if I do all of these things, that's a bunch. And that illustrates one of the points, right? We talked to people in the very beginning when we're going through set your goals and targets for your business. And a lot of times people set, 6, 8, 10 goals, and
Yeah.
we'll count them to do less. And
Yep.
I'm looking at my plan for the year, and I'm like, dude, I fell right into that trap, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I've been doing this a long time, and I fell into it. I was like, this isn't that bad. This isn't that bad. This is only 15 minutes here. This is 15 minutes here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, I tried to add like 2 hours to every day, right? Like,
Oh yeah, well, and it doesn't sound like a whole lot until you start doing it, and then you're like, wait a second. Well, dude, I was debating, and we went to a cool like a church show type. It was like a performance, and so there was all these musicians, and my previous life I used to be a professional singer, and so I loved music and all that, and I still do. But it was funny because I'm watching all these musicians do their thing, and there was one of them playing the violin, and I was like, to your point, Shane, I'm like, I wonder if I could learn the violin this year. Like that'd be a really cool thing to just be able to whip out the violin. And I told my wife this, and she laughed at me. And I'm like, what are you talking? I'm like, you don't think I could do it? And she's like, no, it's not that I don't think you can do it. She's like, when are you going to learn the violin? She's like, because I know you're not just going to want to play it a little bit. If you're going to do it, you're going to want to sound like what we just heard.
yeah,
And which means
right.
you're going to have to do this for like hours every day for the whole year. And I was like, but okay, you're right. You're right. So like I tried my best to shoot down those ideas this year on just because I could do it or it sounded like it'd be fun. It's probably not a good idea.
I wandered right into the bloodbath, so I'm actually having to look at some of my stuff and be like, okay, which of these do I really care about?
Mm-hmm.
Which of these, like we've talked about our morning core 4 work, and I added some stuff to that, tweaked some of that. I added some stuff I wanted to do at night, and I thought I was being smart and saying I'm only going to do it like 4 days a week, right? To give myself some leeway. Well, the problem is 4 days a week usually translates to Monday through Thursday, and I'm like, those days are getting packed. So I fell right into the trap that we tell people not to fall into, which I was laughing about it when I realized what I had done.
Dude, well, most of the attorneys we work with, the idea is to actually pull them out of the busy, mundane, and the crazy schedule so they have time to think. Like, I know you've done it, I've done it, and then it's funny. This is what we do. This is guys. I mean, as we just jump into the series because we're in episode 5 of the Unstuck series. But one of those things is the fact that we are creatures of habit, and we'll go back to what we will solve a problem, but because I don't know why we do it, but then we'll just like revert back. And that's one of them where you just have this time that you create by being efficient, putting systems in place. You go back and listen to episodes 1 through 4, and we really hit systems, process, routines, and there's specific episodes on that I encourage you guys to go back and listen to. But if you're not careful, you'll do exactly what you're talking about, Shane.
Oh yeah, and like I say, I noticed it like a week ago, and then I was like, okay, I got to put a pause on some of this stuff, and then I started spending more time thinking, right? And like not just rushing out. And I'm like, dude, I got a ton of things that, it allows you to work better on the things you're working on, right? I mean, busy is usually I don't want to say the death of a law firm, but I mean, it's the death of a leader and growing because you're just doing all the work all the time, right?
Yep.
And that's what we tell people. You got to find time to work on your business and improve stuff and not just do the work over and over. And like I say, I'm a veteran of this, Trevor, and I'm like, crap, I just stumbled right into this. Not so much work-wise, but just a bunch of extracurricular stuff that on paper 2 hours a week, but it's not. It's really like 6 because you got to drive there, you got to come back, you got to do all this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It is, and you'll fall into it. So we'll all fall into it, and it really lends to today's subject, right? Is if you don't have these systems and process and routines in place, you can't get it, and if you don't understand how to manage other people, once you free it up and you eliminate the busy in your own life, but does that mean you just start micromanaging everyone else? Right. And this is what a transition that is a tough one to make when you've started to let go of, realizing that you cannot be the hub of the firm. And when you started out, you were the hub of the firm. You were literally, all things led to you. Every answer had to be done by you. Every decision was led by you, even down to the stupid, what are we doing for lunch today? Right? If are we going to get sandwiches for the team? Like these decisions to the big ones. And when you're the hub, then the first initial transition is you're going to start giving things away, and you don't actually hold people accountable per se. You start just micromanaging the person, which is crazy because it basically creates a game at which your team has no ability to make their own choices and actually operate without you. So in your effort to get rid of the busy, you just create busy in a new way.
Yeah. And a busy that is going to drive your best performers crazy.
Yeah.
As well, which is the key, right? Everybody talks about finding a talent or your best talent or the super people. But then when you micromanage them, it drives them nuts and usually drives them away, right?
Yep.
Because they're like, I'm not going to do this. I don't need, your best paralegal doesn't need you to, I don't know, delegate tell them how to do every single document. They've been doing it 10 years. They know what to do.
Yep.
What
do you think it is, because you've made this transition, why do you think as an owner that's a really hard thing to give someone the freedom to go and do the thing without you scrutinizing every step of the process?
I think a lot of times we fall into the trap of believing we're the only one who can solve it. Because when you're the hub, you're so used to everything. Mm-hmm. And then usually what happens is you say, okay, I'm going to delegate this out. And you don't really delegate it, you abdicate it, is what I would say, right? And what that means is you give away all responsibility. And you're like, hey, here's your thing, go do it. With usually unclear guidance, unclear SOPs, and no feedback check-in, right? And that's the key is the no feedback check-in. They go do it all. Then like 6 months or 9 months later, you check in on the thing, and it's a crap show, right? It's all over the place. The results aren't as good, or it's fallen by the wayside, and then you psycho, and then you go to this micromanaging thing.
Yep.
And a lot of it comes down to clarity and no feedback loop, right? You're not clear on what it is, and you've got no reporting. And I think that's the key in a law firm. When you delegate it down, there needs to be something on the calendar with agreed upon check-ins that come back to you.
Yeah.
And see it like, and I've done this. Everybody does it, right? You abdicate in the beginning, and then it goes bad, so then you micromanage everything. And usually then you get to a spot where when you delegate it down, they don't do it wrong. They just don't do it the way you would do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is wrong. It needs to be changed a different way. Well, why? Right? And this is something you and I have worked on is it wrong, or is it just not the way Shane would do it, right? Yeah. But it still hits the result. It still gets where we want to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough thing to let go of, to let go of this is how I would do it, and realizing that there's another way that could get the same result. Right. And that becomes what you start managing off of, is the result of how it gets done, how they make it happen. And that there's might be things you could advise about on the process, because you might you've done all of the things that you're having these other people do. But at the same time, if you're surrounding yourself with people that you want to learn how to grow and scale, and you want them to become better and ultimately to be better than you at that task, right? If that's the goal, because that's how you're going to build the firm, you've got to give them the freedom to go and actually explore within the confines you give them, but explore that process to get there. And I think that's the difference. And I think people get accountability and micromanaging confused, right? Especially in the beginning of like, well, how do I hold someone accountable if isn't holding them accountable being a micromanager?
And having them do it my way, right?
Right.
But it's not, I mean, look at a soccer team. Does the coach care that they scored using his particular, exactly his plan and whatever, or do they care that he scored, right?
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
if have a referral process with co-counseling, do you care that, I don't know, that the other attorney did it your way, or do you just care that the check came into your office, right? I mean, that it got done. I mean, I had an issue with one of my lawyers, right? And fortunately, he was strong enough that he pushed back on me. I was like, hey, this call, there's some problems with this. And because we're looking at it, and he goes, no, Shane, I don't think there's a problem with it. He goes, I like to do this in a 3-step process. Call 1, call 2, call 3. And I do a darn good job doing it in 3 calls. So that's what I like to do versus Shane wants to do it in 1 call.
Right.
And I left that and I was like, he's got a point. Okay, let him do it his way, right? He doesn't have to do it my way. Maybe I'm a little bit more charming. Maybe I'm just a little bit better in this area, so I can do it in 1 call.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes him 3 calls. But it doesn't matter, and that's not even like he couldn't do it in call number 1. He just liked to do it that way. He felt like it was better, and got more buy-in. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Good call, pushing back. You do it your way. I'm not going to I'm not going to dig down in this area. And especially with your better people, right? Mm-hmm. I think micromanaging and SOPs make sense. One, when you're first figuring something out. And maybe if you're playing with a C player kind of deal, right? You need to tell them how to do everything. But your better people, you can't micromanage. It drives them away and makes them crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just not a reason. There's just not a reason to do it. It's you that wants to do it. They don't. The system doesn't need it. The process doesn't need it. But it also exposes when you don't have a system, process, and a routine in place, why you would need to micromanage. Right. There's a guy. It's a friend of mine, and it's an unrelated industry. He's not an attorney, but he got laid off, and he just found a job in IT, and he's an IT guy. And about a month ago. And I was talking to him this Monday was this week. So I was in a conversation with him, and I was like, so tell me about the job, man. How's it going? He's like, well, I don't really know. He's like, I know IT, like I know what to do, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Yeah. And they haven't really told me. I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, do you have like a job description or like what do you do? And he's like, well, they just like put me on this project and said, hey, go work on this. You won't work on it all the time, but right now just do this. And he's like, but this isn't even really what I'm good at. And so it's very confusing, right? And talking with him, he was pissed. He was just like, dude, I don't know. And he's, for him, it was good money. He's like, I'm on salary, like $160,000 a year. And so it's going to pay for his life or his family. And so he's like, I like that I'm, not broke anymore, that I have some money, but I don't know what to do. So he gets up in the morning and he's literally, and I asked him, I'm like, dude, do you even know if you're doing what they want you to do? Like, how do you know if you're like doing a good job? And he's like, he just threw his hands up and he was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, that's annoying. So I kind of coached him a little bit to go to his leadership and be like, can you give me something in a little more concrete about what you actually expect of me? How do I know if I'm winning? Right? Because when you create these vague roles and these vague conversations with people, it creates massive confusion for your team. And then your team will look like it's failing, but your team's not actually failing. It's you as the leader who you just didn't do the pre-work required to create the frame for them to know how to win and know what to do and all of that.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than a conversation with an employee who thinks they're winning.
Oh.
And they think they're killing it. They think they're doing everything you want to do, and they're coming in to meet with you, and they're like, yeah, I am on fire, dude. I'm like an A, and you're like, dude, I'm like counseling you on a performance.
Yeah, like I've been thinking about firing you.
Yeah, and you've got that separation, and usually, almost always, that's the leader's fault, right? I mean, yes. I don't want to say 100%, but like 99% of the time, it's your fault as the leader, right? You didn't lay out clear guidelines. You didn't lay out clear metrics on what a win was, and And that's the issue. I mean, you didn't do the pre-work like you were talking about.
Yep.
So either the employee's frustrated or you're frustrated when you do that.
Yeah, we've got an attorney right now that's hiring his very first employee. I'm so proud of him. He's and it is a big step for him, and it may be for you guys listening. Maybe you haven't hired anyone yet, and this is just literally kind of a paralegal / assistant role. But he's he's been a solo operator. Like, I know some of you guys listening, this is a lot of you guys actually this is kind of where you began there. So
right.
At one point you were all here anyway. And he's got this, and we have been working tirelessly. His employee starts on February 1st. Well, I guess it's the 2nd. I think the 2nd's Monday. So he starts on February 2nd, and we have been working tirelessly. I was just on a call with him last night about how does he set the frame up so when this person comes in, he doesn't have to micromanage. And I want you guys to realize the reason you don't do it is because, I hate to say it, you're allowing laziness to play its way, because you're just going to rest on what you already know how to do. And instead of setting up a game that your team can win, you just don't want to do that work. It's just not fun work. It's very boring work. And I've had this conversation with who I'm talking about several times. And he's literally just like, he told me last night, this is so hard because it's so damn boring. It's stuff I already know how to do, but I realize the more I'm asking him, because he came to me with an SOP, and then I just asked him questions about it, and he's like, shit. He's all, I thought I had it done. He's all, but you're asking these questions that are very clear that if someone who doesn't know, I thought I was being clear. I'm not being clear. This isn't clear. They're not going to know what to do. Shit. So then I go back to the drawing board.
Huge difficulty for like your first several employees, because everything's in your head, right? As the lawyer. Or anytime you add you're handing something off, it's all in your head how you do it. So you think it's, you lay out 5 steps to do something, because those are sort of the big picture things, but you got nothing inside of those, right?
Yeah.
And this is a super tough balance, to do. And, I'm a big believer in try to just record you doing the whole task so somebody can see it, and then start that as the framework from there, right? Versus, because I have a tendency, then I will either be so general and vague that it's unhelpful, or I'm a psychopath, right? And I do stuff like, I don't know, open Word, hit new document, all this way down in the weeds stuff that is super low, that if they don't know how to open a Word document, they shouldn't be working on a dang law firm, right? So I go in the extreme, or did in the past. So it's hard to do this without some kind of feedback from somebody. And when you bring somebody in and give them a new task, you need to get some feedback from them, like, hey, was this clear? Was this not? And honestly, when the first 2 or 3 are wrong, we usually blame the employee, but we should be blaming ourselves.
Yeah. Well, even if the employee has some, which they do, they have some accountability when a failure happens. Like they can think, they can make decisions too, but there's always a leadership part of it. Always. So even if you're not fully to blame, you're still to blame. There's something that you did that didn't set this person up. This is why you can take a team full of B players, even down to C and B players, and they can perform very well if they have the right system and the right checks and balances of clarity in what they do, and then they're held to a standard. They're held accountable, right? Some of the things you could ask yourself right now, like, can you clearly define the success for every role in your firm? If you look at each person, do you know what winning means for your intake, for somebody in operations, maybe somebody on demand's team, somebody in accounting? Like, some of these are much easier to define, some are hard. Intake, that's easy. Well, how many leads come in? How many you close? Well, but how about accounting? Well, how are we going to measure a win? How does accountant know? Because it's more than just, hey, I was here at 9 and I left at 5. Well, I won. Well, did you though? Or did you crush it? Right? Can you define those?
Oh yeah, and you got to define even smaller things sometimes, right? Like, we have somebody, once we hit a certain size, go get the mail, bring it back to the office, open it up, scan it in, right? And they thought as long as it was all scanned in by 5, it was good to go, right? And disperse the mail at 5 o'clock. Well, it's not, because we get checks in. Checks, we want to deposit them as soon as we can so they can begin the clearing process. So we weren't clear, and we were getting frustrated. Like, my accounting team's telling me, hey, we're getting checks at 5 o'clock. We can't do it, or I got to pay overtime. A little thing. And then we tell the mail person, hey, we've got to have the mail back at the office by 2 o'clock. And then they're like, well, I don't like, and we're like, why does mail get late? And they're like, well, the post office sometimes late. Well, what time are they almost 90% of the time have the mail done? Well, by like 1:30. Okay, then you need to go at 1:30, get the mail so it can be open, so it can go to accounting, so they can get the checks deposited. So also that why some of the rules are there, it is helpful because it explains to people why versus just you're a dictator and you're making some crazy rule, right? Because you got to go get the mail at 1:30 without any context. Seems like I'm a psychopath and I'm micromanaging.
Yes.
I'm not. I'm setting up for the other departments. But you have to do that. Or like faxes that come into your office. How quick do they get dispersed, right? Is it fine for them to do it within 24 hours? Maybe. Is it, or does it need to be done by the end of the day? The little things, you got to set those so that everybody wins and knows what the standard is. They know what they need to be doing.
Yeah, they need to know the numbers and the why to those metrics. So whatever it is you're going to hold as the standard, that this, and we sometimes just say, like, I knew I did this as a parent all the time for my oldest son. I always feel bad because he was such a guinea pig of me being a parent, but it was always do what I say because I said so.
Right. The why shouldn't be because that's the way I like it done, right?
Yeah, exactly. There is no why. Don't ask that question. It's not for you to know, right? And half the time it's because I wasn't very clear on why I was wanting this thing done exactly that way.
It should be why, because my name's on the sign outside.
Exactly.
Right? That's a terrible answer.
Why are you doing it? I only laugh because I've literally said shit like that.
Well, all of us have done it once or twice. The goal is to not do it all the time.
Man, and you're like, dude, and it's the wrong thing to say, but man, if you feel, I don't know, it definitely doesn't get you the result you want at all.
Trevor, I was talking to an attorney who was doing something. He's like, why do I need to do it this way? And I was actually near the front door to my office, so I said, hold on a sec. Opened the door, went outside, turned around and looked, and came back in. And he goes, what was that all about in the middle of our conversation? I just wanted to see if the sign on the door changed. Right now. And he was just like, okay, got it. I guess I'll do it this way. Now, in hindsight,
oh, shit.
That's terrible, right? That's a terrible why. It was effective. I mean, it got him to do what I wanted him to do.
I definitely got the point across.
But it didn't explain the why and probably didn't get as much buy-in as I could have done had I handled that differently.
No, that was you just pulling the ultimate trump card out.
It was.
I win.
I was irritated. Yeah. I didn't want any more discussion anymore. I was done. I was done with whatever that was.
And there's definitely a time and a place for that. But overall, that is a poor strategy not to be used, which really pulls up, right? I think a lot of times we are managing emotionally instead of off of weekly scorecards or performance checks.
Yeah.
Right. And so you just really,
100%.
So looking at your firm, like asking yourself that question, how do you manage your teams? Like when you look at these roles, is it off a weekly scorecard? Do you have a way to measure this with facts and data, or is that emotional? Right. You feel like your accountant's not working hard enough. Why? Right. Well, because why are they at the water hole for the third time? Yep. Right? What's going on here? What is right? You get all this crazy emotion. You make assumptions and all this bullshit. This is when you'll start to micromanage, and this is when you'll destroy morale, which will destroy culture over time to this place where now people just they work from you out of fear because they're worried about the stick all the time, and you literally it's because you're not actually managing off the data.
Well, exactly, right? And you're managing off feelings, right? Like, and I was just. It's funny you say that because we were talking about one person in particular in my firm, and we were like, well, they don't seem to, they seem pretty laid back. They don't have that intensity, that drive. They don't do whatever. And we're like, and I think they were shaving a couple, they had some stuff going on, right? They seem distracted and whatever. And we're like, yeah, but when we look at the data, everything, they're killing it, right? And we're like, oh, well, if they're doing all that, do we really care that they seem a little more laid back and they're not exactly like how I want? No, we don't care. No. Right? I mean, if they're crushing it by their data, we've clearly laid out the items that make them winning, right? And we measure it and we go, let's look at the data. Wow, they're doing great. This is just our feelings, which I don't want to say they don't matter, but they don't really matter nearly as much as the metrics that you've established that say they're winning.
No, very little actually. And really the only time that the feeling gets into place is if you know, it's more of a cultural thing.
Right.
Right.
And I had a case. Yeah, I was going to say I had a case, man. This is like this person. They chatted. Right. They were a chatty person.
Right.
And we actually had to counsel them and say, I know because we had clearly defined metrics, they were winning, but we said, you're winning and you're crushing it, but we need you to chat with these people a little less because they're not crushing it, right? So you're an A, they're a B, they need the extra time, so you're gonna have to figure out a way to manage it. Because we couldn't really get onto her because she was crushing it everywhere. Mm-hmm. She was that good. We were probably underutilizing her, honestly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a great example. I mean, it brings this all kind of to a head of realizing like you have to manage the people off of real data, not feelings and emotion, and culture plays into it too, figuring out how you're going to do this. But if you feel like you're micromanaging, the big indicator, like meaning you feel like you're just scrutinizing every step along the way on how they're doing everything. Are they holding their pen in their right hand or their left hand? Do they hold their two fingers or one, right? When you've got into that granular, there's usually because you have undertrained, they're not clear on their role, they're not clear on the expectation, and you're probably managing off of emotion instead of actual data and facts. Because if you can pull yourself back to the data and facts, it's every day it makes a huge difference, and your team will thrive by being able to start making this shift. Accountability, people want to be held accountable. People do not want to be micromanaged, though.
Right.
And it really comes to if they want to know if they win. And that, like my buddy who just got this IT job, like his problem right now is that he doesn't know if he's winning. Right. And so he gets home with his work, and he may have worked hard, but he's like, I don't even know if I'm going to get fired tomorrow, and if I'm even close to what they would want from me, or not. And so I think for a quick, an action item, something you guys can do right now is just pick one role inside of your firm right now, whether that's intake, demands, could be a case manager, an associate, just like pick one of them and define one outcome that is undefined right now for that particular role. Like look at it, look through the ones that you do have defined on how you want, how that particular role is operating. Do you feel like they have too much autonomy, not enough autonomy? Do you feel they're accountable or not? And then determine that by coming up with what are some 3 to 5 KPIs that you could put in place over the next week or so that you could start measuring this, right? And actually look at the data. And one thing I've seen is a lot of people want to make a shift if you're going to make a change, and they want to do like 133 different things. If just this week alone you just picked one role, define the outcome, and put 3 to 5 KPIs that would help measure that outcome and work with that person, even though that's only one person, one role, and you're like, man, I got 38 problems, I need to solve them all today. I mean, that comes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of today's show, right? You do try to do that, it won't work. But if you do the one, and then just set up the cadence that this becomes a normal part of the process, right? And your scorecard is really what's going to define the success of this person's role. Yep. And once you've done the one person and you've established it, guess what? You got someone else you can work on.
And I was going to say, I've seen new people buy into this and they're like, holy cow, and they go in like a psychopath, and they do one this week, and then they do one next week, they do one next week, they do one next week, and they're making a ton of changes with the team. I think it's usually better to slow down if possible. Yes. Right? Not do it, but deliberately slow down. This is an issue I struggle with. It's hard for me. I see stuff broken. But if your team, especially if you've got a smaller team, now I've got a bigger team, so I can spread out the changes amongst a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. But if you've got a smaller team of 5 to 7 people, you can't go back to them and change a bunch of stuff over and over and over, week after week after week after week. You got to slow some of that down and like gradual improvements versus a ton. Like Trevor says, one person, one role, talk to them about it, get some feedback. Maybe, next week, maybe a different person, or maybe go back and say, hey, what would be the next thing we could work on? But you got to go slower than you think you need to as the boss.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and not to throw you or your firm under the bus, but this is what happened this last year. with the attorneys and the pod structure and the way, and I want to give everybody that real world experience with it. No matter what your level is, you have to constantly remind yourself of this, because if you add too much change, right, and some of these attorneys were like, everything's coming at us too fast. So it was in a watch, you just pulled the brakes on. You're like, you're right. I have to sit, and some of the conversations we had, and you're just like, shit, I can't, there's all these things I want to do, but I have to wait. Yep. I have to wait to do them, because if I do them now, we haven't even, the dust hasn't settled from the first thing that we just initiated, and people can't handle that. You as the owner can, they can't.
I got it. And what you got to realize too is any of those big changes, you've spent a ton of time thinking about it, hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. Thinking about it and studying it, but you're not articulating that same amount of time to your team, or they're not having enough time to process it either. I mean, like you got onto me. I spend 16 hours on a plan, and then I pitch it to my attorneys in 30 minutes, and I'm coming back frustrated, like, why the heck can they not see this as well as I can? What is going on? What's their obstruction? And you're like, dude, you spent 16 hours on it. You gave them 30 minutes. Yeah. I mean, and it's your idea. I mean.
So it's huge. So just slow roll this. Right? And slow roll this. Figure out the cape. Don't just put everybody on some big initiative. Pick that one. Create the KPIs, create the scorecard, and then just test and watch and flow. And once they're in rhythm, you can start adding to it. But that's really the best tactic you can do to start moving towards accountability out of the micromanagement phase of playing a game. So as we come to the end of today's episode, again, this is episode number 5 of our series right now on how to get unstuck. Like, these are literally the real life barriers, Shane, that I know you've experienced and other attorneys and business owners across the board experience, and what holds them back. And I hate to say it, gentlemen and ladies, but you are the bottleneck. So tune in to every series. If you haven't listened to them so far, go back and listen to the previous episodes. If you got value from today's show, go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe, and share the show up with somebody else. So maybe you got a colleague out there who this particular lesson will be helpful for them to be able to kind of see the forest from the trees and be able to start moving towards this. We appreciate you guys. We also head over to legaledgecoaching.com. We've got some free training on there that Shane and I have done on intake systems, on setting and establishing foundation. And then this is something that we are currently offering. I don't know how long we'll offer it, if we'll forever offer it. But we're offering up a deep dive conversation where you jump on a call with us, where we'll actually go into the weeds of your firm and help you identify where are those sticking points for you right now, and come up with a 90-day action plan that you can go out and actually implement moving forward. All the tactics we talk about here on the show, but actually with your real data, your real numbers, and a real action plan for you. So if you want to do that, you can also get access to that here in the description. On wherever you're either watching this on YouTube or listening on iTunes or Spotify, wherever that's at, and also at legaledgecoaching.com. You can get that access there. So other than that, brings us to a wrap. You got any final thoughts you want to throw at everybody, Shane?
All I'm going to say is, when you're setting those KPIs for improvements, don't go from 0 to 70 or 0 to 80 right away, right? Gradual improvements are better, so people feel like they can win. I've done that before. Like, this is terrible, let's make it perfect right away. No, just gradual improvement over time is the key to winning. So that's it. Other than that, pay attention. There's a ton of stuff here. I actually had a couple notes. I could go talk about this more and more and more, because it's a huge issue, Trevor.
Oh, for sure. I'm confident we will visit this conversation again. This will not be our only time. So, all right. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a fantastic rest of your day.